All right, Chuck Bonnewell, Julie Hayden here at 710 KNUS, a little before 3:30, and we have
Lindsey
Singer from
Colorado
Rising Action. Lindsey, great to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
So I saw the court ruling today about TABOR, where the various groups have various petitions and various ballot initiatives on, but there was sort of like a King Kong of ballot initiatives that would have just repealed the entire thing. And initially, I guess the ruling was that there were too many issues involved, and it violated the state law that can only be a single issue per ballot initiative. But today, I guess the Supreme Court, and maybe you can explain this, ruled that the people who are seeking
no
problema, you can violate the state constitution. No, that's not what they said.
Of course
but they just left that part out. So can you first explain what was today's ruling and what's the significance of it?
Yeah, sure. So you mentioned the title board that previously said that this couldn't go on because of the single subject rule. And the interesting thing about that is the title board is made up of someone from the Secretary of State's office, the Attorney General's office, and I think one or two other people. But these are some of the most liberal elected officials in Colorado.
Yeah.
And for them to say, hold up, you have to revise this, you can't put this on the ballot as is because of the single subject rule, really says something. But then these liberal groups took it to the Colorado Supreme Court, which is pretty much stacked. I mean,
yes,
6 out of the 7 justices were appointed by Democrats. The Supreme Court has been tearing down TABOR piece by piece through rulings over the years, and this is where we are in that fight right now.
So what do you think will happen? I mean, there's another referendum, CC, which has to do with a little piece of TABOR. They want to keep the refund. But what do you think will happen? Will they try to put this on the ballot? Will they wait? I mean, what do you think is going to happen now?
Yeah, so you mentioned CC. I think that Proposition CC will be on the ballot in 2019, and I think that's just the first step in their dismantling of the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. And then I think a full repeal will go on the 2020 ballot, along with the national popular vote is also on the 2020 ballot, which should really bring some conservatives out of the woodwork.
It may be in some ways good news.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because here's the thing. I would wonder, kind of like with the transportation issues, right? When you get conflicting transportation issues, everybody just votes no. I'm wondering that even if you don't like, if you're kind of Democrat and you don't like kind of parts of the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, the very fact that it's called Taxpayer Bill of Rights, might stand for something. And I wonder if they might, in their own way, lose or risk more losing if they say just one big chunk, we're going to repeal the whole thing. Or what's the thought on that?
I agree with you. I think they are definitely at risk of losing if they try to repeal the whole thing. And we'll make sure, along with you guys, we'll make sure that people know exactly what they're trying to do.
Okay. Well, and because I think the CC could be kind of a loser, too. When you say to people, do you want to permanently give up your refund? I think people would be like, no.
Well, the problem is they go, what refund?
Well, yeah, there's that, but it's a concept is out there. I mean,
the concept is you could get a refund from your government. But then again, when does government actually give you refunds? But
I would think, though, if I'm a voter, I would say, well, I'd still take my chance. I don't know. What are you guys seeing on the CC thing?
I think people will definitely be wary of the concept of not getting their tax refunds. And that's more of what we're doing starting now, is to educate people. Tax refunds go back to your local communities and go to pay for certain services in your communities, and then if there is still more, you may get a refund. We haven't seen a lot of that lately, but just the fact that people here, they won't be getting tax refunds permanently ever again, no matter how good Colorado's economy is doing, and the fact that it really is a tax increase.
Right.
When the government keeps more of your money and spends it, that's a tax increase.
Right, but not getting a refund is an increase when you get right down to it. Even, I mean,
it's never so great to say, well, your greedy state government couldn't sop it all up, but your local pigs got the rest of it, so it never goes to you anyway. But maybe someday both of those wouldn't get it. But I think it's going to be. Let me ask you, it's interesting to me anyway, of how this no one CC decided to brand themselves, and they said, okay, we'll get, Walker Stapleton. Yeah, that'll excite the base. It'll just be wild. And Governor Bill Owens, oh yeah, that guy who gave us referendum C in the first place and spends most of his time hanging around Michael Hancock so we can get some developments in. Yeah, let's have those guys headed up. That'll be great.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I think that the broader coalition we have here and the more voices that we have coming out, the better. And I think that some of those people have realized how different our economic situation is in Colorado now, and the fact that, referendum C really didn't. It was a lie to taxpayers. The money didn't get spent where they said it was going to go.
No kidding. Wow.
And a lot of people are coming out publicly and saying that. And so I think any of that kind of messaging is positive when we're all working together to defeat Proposition CC.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just always interesting to see who heads it up. Heidi Goodall. I mean, it's a kind of like.
Yeah, it could be an indication of money behind it.
Could the money boys be behind us now? And
it's still a good idea.
And they shove. It said, grassroots, you need to get out there and do the dirty work because now we're in charge.
Once again, I had the last hour of Lindsey. I had to be the optimistic one. Now I'm the optimistic one.
Just saying.
We're talking Lindsey Singer with Colorado Rising Action. Well, I also want to, one of the things that's happened, and maybe let me give you a chance to talk about this, because I know as somebody who didn't follow politics all that much before, the whole TABOR thing is like confusing, right? And it gets good good coverage, bad coverage, but I think to a great extent almost no coverage except for just the fighting about it. And people don't understand just how...
And they're never going to understand because how much TABOR has saved the state when various downturns have come. It's been extraordinary.
Well, and that's what I wanted to ask Lindsey. I mean, why is it that you guys and everybody is fighting to keep it intact and at the very least fighting to keep them from chipping away at it little piece by piece?
Yeah, well, I think if you just say the basic definition of TABOR, it says a lot about it. And if you tell Coloradans that 71%, it's shown in multiple polls now, have said that they support TABOR if they just hear the basic definition, and that's compared to only 23% who disapprove of it.
Wow.
But I think the two main parts, voting on tax increases, we voted down the last 6 statewide tax increases.
Yes,
so people can't really see the effect of not doing something, not.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
But I think, though, the fact that you, like you said, they voted against it, people have made a pretty clear statement. You could have except for in the city of Denver, but you could have a pretty clear and convincing argument to get me to raise taxes. And I think, I don't know, I almost think that if they tried, as you said, if you think that their strategy is going to put repeal TABOR in its entirety on the 2020 ballot, which will then also be...
Well, they almost have to, don't they, because of the constitutional one?
Well, what do you mean?
Constitutional ones have to go on.
I see. Right, but I mean, if that's their strategy, I think that they might lose. I just think, like you said, people support the whole the basic concept of if you want to ask for a tax increase, then ask for it, and then we'll decide rather than just you impose it on us.
Yeah, well, let's have this conversation with taxpayers. Our state budget has gone up about $10 billion in the last decade.
Unbelievable.
And the legislature and state government have told us multiple times that, if you just pass one thing or another, that'll solve all of our, for example, our transportation problems, fix all of our roads and bridges. In 2005, Ref C was supposed to fix everything. And then the faster Colorado fees were supposed to fix everything.
Right.
And the hospital provider fee. When is it enough? They keep asking for more and more.
Well, and I think under Governor Polis, too, to me what's particularly alarming is they have an extremely progressive agenda that they got to pay for, right? I mean, full-day kindergarten was like nothing.
It's only paid for one year.
Right. I mean, they want Medicare for all. They want this. They want that. Phil Weiser, meanwhile, is suing President Trump over everything. These guys have a lot of money they want to spend, and they need to get it from somewhere.
They do, and so that's important to tell the taxpayers because the Taxpayer Bill of Rights is the only thing, the only reason that they're not able to do that just, as they're with their own free will.
Where does Americans for Prosperity Colorado chapter stand, if they still exist?
They're different, aren't they?
Yes, we're different.
I didn't say it was the same organization. I just said if she knew where they stood.
Do you know, are they still around?
Well, I think they're technically around, aren't they?
Yeah, I think there were some quotes in the press today from their Executive Director Jesse Mallory, I'm not sure exactly what his title is, but talking about how important it is to not let this repeal go through, and to if the liberal activists want to have a conversation about the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, let's have that conversation.
I agree.
Let's talk about why the legislature needs this money when they've consistently underfunded priority programs.
Well, and as you said before, look at what they did this year, what they rammed through this year. If they can put tax increases through that they don't have to put to the voters, it's just scary, really, when you think of what and they don't seem to care, right? They don't seem to care that the people in their districts didn't want this. Their people in the district said, like, look what they did up in Weld County. They didn't care. And I think the fact that for us to just ride on, well, hopefully they won't raise our taxes outrageously to pay for all these programs we don't need or want. You can't count on that.
You definitely can. It can't be a hopefully or, just holding our breath and even whatever. We have to work to make sure taxpayers understand what the Taxpayer Bill of Rights is and to defend it. It's like democracy. Democracy doesn't stay, our freedoms don't stay as they are by accident. We have to work to keep them.
Well, if you could have two things on the ballot, for Republicans.
Those are two good things.
To the extent they'll need a turnout, boy, those are two great.
Lindsey, are you guys secretly?
Are you
secretly pushing these things?
Maybe we have some Democrats on the payroll.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Lindsey Singer with Colorado Rising Action. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right.